Good morning again, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. And it is indeed my pleasure to be with you one more time to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this morning, I have seen a lot of interest generated by my video that Bob Marley should not become, or he does not deserve to become, a national hero. Now, I want to say that I enjoy the fact that you were able to interact and to comment and to lodge or register some comments, right, in the comment section. That was good. One of the things that I am concerned about, however, is the fact that, one, why does it take, people like these national heroes and people that we esteem or that we hold in high esteem for us to generate some amount of interest? It's almost like when we talk about people like Bob Marley's, we talk about Usain Bolt and the Shelley Price, Fraser Prices, and all of these people. We're so much invested in these people that they are only what they are the symbols of what Jamaica is all about, right? How can we think like that? When I make videos, for example, on the IMF, right, the International Monetary Fund, right, among other very important videos that I have made, they haven't generated a lot of interest, right? Because you don't care. You don't care about the economics and what's happening in Jamaica. You don't care about the corruption on the island, right? You are only following a bandwagon, I should say, right? That's all you're concerned about, right? Just flowing with the current, flowing with the wind, right? You are not concerned about the socioeconomic development of Jamaica. You are more concerned about defending the interests, right, and the positions of your national heroes, which I would call gods, your demigods, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, gentlefolks, Bob Marley, Usain Bolt, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and I hold Marcus Mosiah Garvey in high esteem, but they are not my gods, right? And when people talk intelligently about them, right, whether or not I like to hear what they say, right, it doesn't mean, therefore, that the person who probably are presenting, the person who is presenting, rather, some facts about that particular person, it means, therefore, that the person has bad mind or hold grudges against that person, right? But sometimes that is the food, the intellectual, the mental food that we need to eat. Remember now that if we were to think about all the foods, the physical foods, that is, that we love to eat, physical Jamaican foods, right? We think about a lot of starch and sugary foods, right? Which are not good for us, right? And a lot of times the foods that do not look appealing to the human eyes, these are the foods that are healthy for our bodies, right? To develop our physical constitution, right? Now, when we think about Bob Marley, among other so-called national heroes that we treasure so highly and so much in Jamaica, we've got sometimes to understand that some of the intellectual food on which we have to feed our minds on, or we need to feed our minds on, might not also be palatable, right, to the human brain. Sometimes we just don't want to hear these facts. We don't want to hear these realities. We don't want to hear these conclusions, these assertions. But if we ought to learn from the mistakes, right, and from the shortcomings of these individuals, and shortcomings all of us have, right? And if you are going to think about having a national hero, you've got to first think about the values that that particular national hero was portraying to the world, all right, or to the nation at large, right? And we spoke about the fact that we are living now in a society in which our values have been turned upside down, right? Wholesome values that we used to treasure are now being questioned. The first thing, people don't even know the difference between a man and a woman, right? There is no difference now according to what the biologists are saying or some of these scientists are saying, right? That it depends on the social construct. It's a social construct, right? Because we have moved away from our this Judeo-Christian foundation on which all Western societies were built. We've moved away from that, right? We've moved away from the Bible, and people are attacking me. Oh, you're just giving a Christian perspective. Well, the society in which you live, right, were built, and well, all these Western societies, I should say, right, were built on the Judeo-Christian philosophy and value system, right? That is how these Western societies emerged, right? But now that we're throwing out those value systems, right, those core values outside of the bottle, right, outside of the box, through the window, we are now seeking other gods because God is at the center of the Christian religion, right? So now we have to seek other gods, right? Other demigods. So we have the celebrities are now equivalent or are synonymous with, right? They're equivalent to and synonymous with God. We have exalted them to the level of our gods, right? And that is what is happening to us right now. They are our idols. And we know that was the second commandment enjoins upon us not to worship any graven images, right? And many of you, your sports guys, the guys that you vouch for to win a particular game, particular match, sports game or sports match, it's nothing but your God, or are nothing but your God, right? You just think that these people are going to lead you into a higher level of being or manhood or womanhood, right? That's what you think. But when Sheldon Fraser Price or Usain Bolt, well, Usain Bolt is not retired, but when he was on the track field, he was accomplishing success for himself. Those were individual success. Yes, he's identified as a Jamaican, right? But that is not going to build the country. Usain Bolt's image cannot build a country, right? And we need to understand that. Bob Marley's image cannot, right, build a country, right? And why would you want Usain Bolt, for example, to become a national hero? What values is he actually promoting to the world for him to become a national hero? And I would argue that we don't deserve another national hero. I would perhaps challenge the government, all right, or the people in Jamaica, anybody, right, who brings us, or any government, I should say, who takes us to the next level of economic independence, then perhaps I would say that some of those people who have done that, say if it's the Dr. Narja Clark or, any other finance minister and their administration, when they're able to take us to socioeconomic independence, maybe then we should consider, another national hero, whether we want to make that person national hero, right? Because at this juncture of Jamaica's history, we are literally the laughing stock of the Caribbean. right? We have not done well post-independence. We have not done well. We have just barely been performing, right? And if we should get a grade, you know, maybe a D, right? Crime and violence, right? The poor infrastructure, a collapsing infrastructure, right? Dismal education system, right? A healthcare system that is broken in all parts, right? And we're talking about national hero, and let's get together and feel all right. Yeah, right? It's all about feel-goodism. We love that. Jamaicans and Black people in general love to feel good, and we love to party and be entertained. And our politicians know that, right? They know that we do not know how to think. They understand, and they have sent us through an education system that has not taught us how to think. It has taught us what to think, but has not taught us how to think. And thinking is not an easy activity, right? It requires time and it requires effort, right? It also requires reading, which we don't like to do, if truth be told, right? We don't like to read. We will read to pass an exam, right? We'll read to pass a course, right? But we're not reading as students, that we are students until we die, right? And that we've got to read and we've got to challenge established ideas and philosophies. That is the purpose of any democratic society, right? But what we want to do is to jump on the bandwagon, right? And let's get together and feel all right, right? That's all what it's about. And Andrew Holness and his administration understand that there is nothing great that is happening in Jamaica right now. So they welcomed the Bob Marley's premiere movie, right? They welcomed it with open arms because that will make Jamaicans feel proud and make Jamaicans feel good. But that movie is just going to be just like a race, like a Usain Bolt race. It will come and go. And the dismal, right, economic performance will always be there. The suffering of the Jamaican people will remain. Nothing will change fundamentally and structurally, right? So we've got to now get out of this forms of distractions. Every time Jamaica needs to concentrate and to focus on achieving solid developmental goals, we find ourselves being engaged in very frivolous and also unimportant conversations as to what, like Bob Marley becoming a national hero. And the reason why I made that video is to jolt your thinking capacities, to let you know that as a society, we are not a thinking people, right? What we want to do, we want to be on the world stage. We want to flaunt ourselves. We want to flaunt our careers. We want to flaunt our titles. And as much as we talk against the white man, I know the white man is this and the white man is that, right? Once he or she acknowledges us, we think that we're important, right? Right? Once he or she, the white man or the white woman, right, exalts us, promotes us, elevates us, then we think we are important. Outside of that, we don't regard ourselves. We do not hold ourselves in high esteem, right? And perhaps if a white person should go down there and decide to be a prime minister tomorrow, maybe then things will change. The Jamaican people will cooperate with a white man, right? Because he or she represents a symbol of authority, which suggests to me that we're still slaves on the island, right? We have not yet moved from that mental slavery. And maybe we should apply the words of Bob Marley. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, right? That is what you need to do. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, right? Because only we, with God's help, can free our minds. Black people, including Jamaicans, are still undergoing the traumas, the psychological traumas of slavery, right? And it's at the university level. You see it on the job, right? Many of you, many Black Americans, for example, thought that Barack Obama was going to change the dynamics of racial relations in the United States when he became president in 2007, 2008. They genuinely, most of them, not all, but most of them genuinely thought so, right? And they were deceived, right? And not only Black Americans, a lot of what we call brown and third world citizens also thought the same. In fact, many of them journeyed to um, the investiture, right? When he was officially um, installed as the president of the United States in 2008, right? Because, we are so hungry, Black people that is, we are so hungry for success. We've had this negative image being cast on us and on our identities for so many years, for centuries, right? That anything that is positive, which is good, because we need to embrace anything that is positive. But we can't just think that one person, right, or one man or one woman is going to change the dynamics of things, right? We can't think like that. We've got to look at the big picture, right? And the big picture is that too many of us are poor, right? We're uneducated, right? And undereducated also, right? Uncivilized, right? But we want to think of ourselves, what we want to do, right? Which the slaves wouldn't want to do. Because if you read the history of slavery and you understood that many of them, when they were free from the shackles, right? The physical shackles that gripped their hands and their feet, right? They wanted their children and sometimes themselves, even though some of them were very old upon being liberated. They wanted an education and they began to embrace the values of of society. Our society has turned upside down, in which if we were to have slavery today, what they would do, we want to mainstream the ignorance, right? And the antisocial behavior of the slaves. And we cannot blame the slaves. And not all the slaves were antisocial, by the way. But the fact that they did not have the opportunities to educate themselves, right? They would practice a lot of antisocial behavior. So it's anybody would do that, whether you are European or African or Asian, right? Because if you're not educated and you're not exposed to a certain way of life, refined way of life, then you are going to behave rough and coarse, right? That is how you, for the most part, I'm not saying all will, but for the most part, that is how people will behave. But we have normalized antisocial behavior in our society. And that started in the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, of which, out of which, people like the Bob Marleys emerged, right? So Bob Marley was trying to, in his quest, give him his credit, to achieve and to educate in his own way people about the plight of ordinary Jamaicans and poor people living in the world in general, right? That was his quest. And he did a fine job of, articulating through music those sentiments, right? But Bob Marley had lots of problems, right? Bob Marley also was trying to find out who he is. Remember now that, as we have people say, he was a biracial person. I don't believe in this race thing, but that is what people say, and this is what we have normalized. And it affected him, right? The product of a white father and a black mother. And he was often, mocked and derided for just looking different, right? Right? So Bob Marley was trying to find out, and as he traveled to the United States in the early 1960s, and with his mom, right, to Delaware, that is, he would have been exposed to racial segregation in the United States, right? And this racial exploitation of Black people. So I'm sure upon his return to Jamaica in the latter part of the 60s, that's then his consciousness. He really yearned to help, right? The plight, to solve some of the issues, the socioeconomic issues of the Black man. And that was a noble effort, right? But Bob had embraced by then the Rastafarian religion. And by the way, music promotes your religion. We had his son, Ziggy Marley, who produced, I think in 2007, a new album. And the title of that new album is Love is Religion, or is the New Religion, I should say. Love is the New Religion. Now, from a superficial point of view, it sounds good. Love should be the new religion. In fact, that is the essence of the Bible, that God is love. So you can't knock Ziggy Marley for titling his new album then as Love is the New Religion. Nothing is wrong with that. But how do we love? And what religion is he talking about? Because the essence of music is to worship, right? And Bob Marley definitely was worshiping another God but the Christian God. And don't tell me, as they have online, and they will say, yes, and Rastafarianism is a merger of the Christian religion with aspects of Judaism. God says that he does not share his throne. He is the only God that exists. So whether or not you want to merge it with some other religion, it doesn't matter, because he's not going to recognize it, because God does not share his throne with any other religion or God. Right? He doesn't, and will never. So yes, there might be some, mixing and merging of aspects of the Christian biblical religion, because Bob read, I understand, the Psalms a lot. And he read the Old Testament. And there was an interview he had, and he was literally, right? He quoted from Genesis 1, and he was able, through his memory, to, I think he went from Genesis 1 verses 1 through to probably 5, right? Verbatim, without reading from the Bible. And that is to show you how our society has, regressed, where many of our young people, even going to college, cannot repeat any scriptures from the Bible from memory. They just couldn't. If you ask many of us to say what the Ten Commandments are, right? We cannot do it, right? And these are the principles on which Western civilization was built and is still surviving. If these principles should be expunged from our society, right, then we are going to see our societies in mayhem, as what took place in the French Revolution, where blood flowed on the streets like water, right? And it was not just by some criminal, right? You had people who you thought should have been civilized and educated participating in those gruesome, right, acts. And we saw what happened during slavery, right, in the United States, and the barbarism, right, of that institution in what you probably would have called back then a civilized society, right? Even the Harvard universities and these elite institutions participated in that institution, right? Right? We've got to take stock, and we've got to understand that, when slavery, particularly in the United States, when the debates were held in Congress, right? The only solid argument that they had against the abolition, right, of that institution was the fact that we are equal in the sight of God, right? That there's nothing in the Bible that suggests that we are unequal as human beings. Absolutely nothing. And that God is no respecter of persons, right? The great Baptist preacher also was Sam Sharp in Jamaica. He also realized that, right? And that is why he led his slavery rebellion there on the island, right? In the western part of the island, right? Sam Sharp, having read the Bible, understood that the system of slavery was built on a false premise because they weaponized the Bible against God's own creation, right? Can you imagine that? That fallen human being that came from the same original parents would have looked at his brother and sister and said that he is inferior. He's, an inferior. He's of inferior stock, right? Another inferior creature of the soil, because that's what we are. Whether you're European or you're Asian or you're African, we are all inferior creatures of the soil. And when we die, we go back to the soil, to the dust from which we came. Nothing particularly great about us. We like to think we're great. We like to decorate our bodies with nice clothes and nice jewelry, but we are essentially nothing. Nobody's. Only in Christ are we anybody. Right? So not Marcus Garvey, but Bob Marley, right, embraced the religious tenets of Rastafarianism. And that was his right, because he thought that that religion would have liberated Black people, right, out of the system of this socioeconomic slavery, right, under which they find themselves, because it's still happening, but at that time, under which they found themselves in his time, right? Now, a part of that philosophy or religion is the smoking of marijuana, right? And we need to go through another video about the psychological, the physical harms, the mental harms of smoking that drug, right? Which Bob Marley, to a great extent, normalized. right? The image of Bob Marley normalizes that behavior, that decadent social, mental, and psychological behavior, right? Right? The harms that that has done to the Jamaican society and perhaps the world in general is are incalculable, right? The harm is incalculable, right? But we think because Bob Marley sang some wonderful songs, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, right? Right? Let's get together and feel all right, right? We think expressing, articulating those sentiments, right? And wonderful music, wonderful to dance and to feel good, right? As was he the one who says one thing about reggae music, when it hits you, you feel no pain, right? So hit me with some reggae music, right? It doesn't matter, just dance and feel good. And Black people love to feel that temporary feel goodism. We love it. We love to dance and to have a great time, right? But after that feel goodism, right, comes the harsh reality of life that we have to face, that we have to confront. And the fact is, in the case of Jamaica, we are lagging way behind our capacity. And when you look in comparison to what is happening in other Caribbean countries, we're way behind, right? I think we're competing with Haiti right now. As far as I am concerned, we are actually competing with Haiti to see which one can be the worst in the Caribbean and the laughing stock of the Caribbean and Latin American region. I think that is our quest, right? We're not using people who are doing well as our comparisons. We're using countries like Haiti that is not doing well, that has not done well for, for so many years, for decades, right? And we're not saying now that Haiti is in the situation because of Haiti's fault only, right? They perhaps bear some responsibilities too, right? However, what we're saying is the fact of the matter is that these two countries are not doing well, right? And Jamaica should have been in a much better capacity because at least we didn't have the revolution that the Haitians had, and we did not have the empires attacking us, right? The way in which Haiti has been attacked, right? And we continued with the British, even though in a very abusive relationship until the 1960s, right? So we were shielded to some extent from the harms, and the exploitation of other empires that could have wreaked serious damage on the island. But we have not built, even though the British didn't leave us with anything, right? They left us, you know, you know, just there to survive without anything. What an evil set of people, bastards they were. But at the same time, we cannot sit by and think that we are going to mope and grope, right? Because they left us in 1962. Yes, we were left under the auspices now of the Americans, and who sought to control and have been controlling and does control the island, right? But where is the ability to think and to be able to outmaneuver some of these exploitative behaviors from the United States or of the United States, right? Where is that ability, that dexterity to do that? I don't think, we can just blame the outside forces that have really, should I say now, destroyed our hopes of development, right? We're not hearing anything about the IMF, Mr. Honest, right? Nothing about the IMF and what they're doing down there now, what their conditionalities are. While we're hearing, let's get together and be all right? That's all we're hearing, and we love that, right? Because all we want to do is to dance and to feel good. You know, I was down there in 2012, and I went to the 50th anniversary of our independence at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. And you see these Negroes, these Jamaican Negroes down there, just dancing from the University of the West Indies, dancing and having fun, playing their, classical reggae music and, eating and dining well in the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, that is, making their lofty speeches, right? That were largely empty. Nothing prescriptive about developing that island. Just academic, using academic legalese, academic words that don't matter, right? Just flaunting their knowledge of economics and what Karl Marx had to say, or what this Smith had to say, or whomever, right? Nothing in terms of applying those ideologies to our socioeconomic realities. And after they made their laughter speeches, they danced and they ate. And you walked out of that hotel, the Jamaica Palace Hotel, that is, right? Seeing the plight of the majority of Jamaicans, right? While they were in the Pegasus Hotel, laughing and dining and chatting nonsense, right? The same thing happened down there now. You were down there, the premiere of the, what you call it now, the Bob Marley's movie, right? Which happened, was it last week? Yeah. And the people knew that it was in the works. My understanding is that Jamaicans knew that this movie was in the works. But all of a sudden, they came on the island on last week, was it last week, Monday, and roads were locked off. And these high dignitaries were there, right? And again, the upper class and the upper middle classes in Jamaica, right? They flocked to the Carib Theater in Crossroads, I understand, where the event took place. And they were just dancing and dining and taking pictures and smiling, all the fake smiles. Let's get together and be all right. And let me tell you something, by the way. That was a literal representation of how the local and global elites come together against you, right? They work together against you and I, the ordinary man and woman of the world, because they don't consider themselves to be ordinary. Like Prince Harry and Princess Meghan Markle, they consider themselves to be prince and princesses, if not kings. And we are the ones who have made them into that sort of, personalities, right? We gave them those titles, official as well as unofficial, right? What does this Bob Marley movie have to do with anything in terms of developing the island of Jamaica? We have seen over the years where they have used and commercialized, right, our people. No different from slavery. The Jamaica brand. What is brand Jamaica? Can the politicians tell me, what is this brand Jamaica? What do we want to disseminate to the world about us? that we are a ganja smoking, semi-literate, right? Uneducated, unsophisticated bunch of people? Is that the image we want to disseminate to the world? Right? What is that image? And how is this Bob Marley premiere going to improve things or improve the image of Grand Jamaica, apart from probably attracting some tourists to the island? But I dare say, as I've said before, that while the movie was taking place, was being premiered on the island, the U.S. Embassy in Jamaica and the State Department in the United States issued a travel advisory to Americans, telling them that they should reconsider traveling to Jamaica. Now, I was trying to research this guy that, played Bob Marley, right? What's his name again? The Ben Adair, Kingsley Ben Adair, right? I was trying to research, to do some investigation about him as to who's this guy? Who's this guy, right? And an interesting character, I should say, right? And perhaps I should do a video on who is really Kingsley Ben Adair, right? And his rise to fame so quickly, right? And I was arguing, and until I did further research, that, why couldn't they find somebody in Jamaica that could have played the role of Bob Marley? But then when I actually read the movies that he has starred in and the characters that he has played, like Barack Obama and Malcolm X, I said, interesting that you have a population in the United States of over 330 million people. And by the way, Kings, for those of you who don't know, the guy who played Bob Marley, his name is Kingsley Ben Adir, or Adir, right? For those of you who don't know. And he's a British actor. So my thing is that, okay, so he's 37 now, right? But at the time he played Barack Obama, I think he was, what, 35, 34, 35, and that movie that he played on Barack Obama, right? And I think it was the James Comey's series that he was playing. I think James Comey wrote a book, and he was just playing aspects from the book, of the book. And he also did another film in which he played the character of Malcolm X. And I'm saying 330 million Americans. And you have some Americans have produced some great actors and actors, actresses and actors, right? I was wondering, is it that America could not have found a Black American that could have played the role of Barack Obama or Malcolm X? Why Kingsley Ben Adir? And I'm not saying that this guy is not talented. I'm sure he's talented, right? But this is my question. Now, he did an interview, that's the same guy, Kingsley Ben Adair. He did an interview with the Guardian newspaper, the UK Guardian newspaper, in which I think he was being asked the question whether or not he was a Jew. Well, many articles that I have read about him suggest that he is in fact a converted Jew, right? But when he was asked, he sort of shied away from questions saying, like, he wants, to stay away from, or to shy away from unveiling his private life to the public, right? I mean, I can understand if they're asking him about his marital status or other things and whatever, but your religion, he's a Christian or he's not a Christian, but I understand that he is a converted Jew. Now, something about his father I've read a lot, and these articles are very, oh, he has a white British father and a mixed or black Afro-Trinidadian woman. What does that mean, really? And who is this white British man, right? His name was provided, but it's almost like reading him, it's almost like he's shrouded in secrecy. Where? I mean, I don't know, but he is, I'm not saying he's a weird guy, but the whole information and the way it's being presented is a bit bizarre, right? So we don't even know this character and what he represents, right? That is playing Bob Marley. And he has, he was the protagonist, the star in other films like, The Secret Invasion and that Barbie show, which I understand if I, that these are so deep, they're steeped in spiritualism, right? In the occult, for those of you who don't understand spiritualism, in the occult. Excuse me, right? Now, this is the sort of person. And Bob Marley, by the way, was a mystic himself. So maybe he was a great character to play that role, right? And don't forget that our body there, you're a boy, Ziggy Marley, is married to an Iranian Jew also, right? And he practices, he says very proudly, all of the Jewish customs and traditions, right? And says that Rastafarianism is very close to or aligned with the principles of Judaism, right? That is what your boy, Ziggy Marley, has said. And that he is pro-Israel. All of what is happening there in Israel, he's pro what's going on, that Israel has the right to defend itself. And of course, we know that Israel does have the right to defend herself from any attacks. But when you look at what is happening and the deceptions which are involved in that occupation and in that war, you really wonder if Ziggy Marley is thinking, or he's defending the interests of the people who are behind him. And whether you like it or not, and I'm not suggesting here that all Jews must be put in the same, because they're not all the same box. But what I'm saying, the ones who are control the levers of power in the United States and around the world, but particularly in the United States, they control the media and they control Hollywood, right? And you need to make that connection. And you are not making that connection. You need to make the connection of the Jews and this promotion of Bob Marley as this great, national and world hero. Right? And you need to watch closely. I have to watch, of course, the film has not yet premiered. It has not yet been out, but it's coming out on February 14th. And I'm not a person who watches movie at all. Not interested. But this one I'm going to watch if I can, because I want to see what this agenda really is. And you can see a lot of times the agendas if you watch their movies. And if you critically look at what is packaged in that movie, right? Because a lot of times, just like a songwriter, just does not, sing a song because sometimes, but there's double messages and double meanings in those songs that you have to read between the lines, right? But many of our Jamaicans are just so emotional. They're so emotionally charged about Bob Marley and his music and his world stature or world status, I should say, right? They're not concerned about the commercialization of the man. We are living in a predatory, parasitic, capitalist society, right? And they will use your eyes if they can use it. They will use your hands if they can use it to promote and to sell a product, right? That is what the game is all about. And you need to understand that. But the problem is you don't want to understand, right? You don't want to understand. Because as far as you're concerned, right? As far as you are concerned, Bob Marley is the one. He is the hero that you want for your children and for yourselves, right? Now, if you are saying that Bob Marley is a national hero and you have a son or a daughter, right? And they decide to smoke marijuana tomorrow because you're Buffalo Soldier, dreadlock Rasta, right? You have all those music in your house playing and having a wonderful time at your family gatherings. Now, when your child gets to the period of adolescent and into early adulthood, right? During that stage of development, or sometimes before, because young people are so now enthralled by what they see, and there's so many influences around them on social media and just around them in general, right? Now, if they begin to smoke ganja, marijuana, what are you going to say to them? Daddy or mom, that's your national hero. So why can't you emulate his smoking of the marijuana? After all, they say that Bob Marley is a prophet. Really? Really? And I don't know what sort of prophet he was, but that's what everybody is saying. Everybody in the educated landscape is saying. And we know when people say things, everybody begins to utter it because it's true. Because it inundates the world. It permeates every nook and cranny of the academic landscape. So it is true, right? It is true because that's what people say. And I'm saying it too. It makes me sound intelligent, right? But if what is said is true, that Bob Marley smoked marijuana and got some wisdom from it, and so was able to prophesy and become an effective Black prophet, what strong argument would you be able to level against your son or daughter using marijuana? Right? If your hero does it and also obtained a tremendous amount of wisdom from doing so, right? Now, that is the underlying message that is projected to us. What are you going to say to him or her, to your child, to your student, to your son, to your daughter? Hmm? Right? Right? I mean, when we look at the antisocial behavior in Jamaica and the fact that we have, registered crude and just largely uneducated populace, right? Who want to just sing a song. Because that was what, Bob Marley did it. And he was successful at doing it. And, you have to give him his props. But everybody will not be able to do that. To go to Trenchtown or to Riemann Jungle, right? And bust a tune and go on the world stage. It's not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. And many of you think so because Bob did it, so I can do it also. And I just sing, one love, one heart, let's get together and be all right. Yeah, right? It's all about getting together and feeling all right. Because when the reggae music hits you, you feel no pain, right? And you're mesmerized by it, right? It transports you into another world, another spiritual realm that you yourselves don't even know what spiritual realm you find yourselves in, right? You just understand it's a higher spiritual realm, right? Not to mention smoking some weed, some marijuana, right? It transports you to another level of intellectual acuity, right? We need to think. We need to examine and to delve deeply into, right? This world agenda of this Bob Marley's whatever image of what they want to disseminate to the world. Because these people don't invest huge billions of dollars or millions of dollars, whatever it is, into projects like these for nothing. For nothing. You saw what they did during the health emergency, right? If you are awake, you saw what they did. And that these guys don't care whether you die or not, right? And I'm here to say that this is going to be the social death of Western civilization. I am not suggesting here that they might be using Bob Marley for that purpose, but I'm sure perhaps they will use him, right? Because if we have marijuana being promoted to the world as something that is a normal behavior and something that should be smoked and be used, which they are intimating that it should be legalized. And you know, when they say legalized, they're not saying that you should have and people should be free to do whatever they want, because I believe in that too. But their legalization of it is to say that it is a normal behavior, just like to say that a man and a woman are the same. And if somebody out there thinks that a man and a woman are the same, props to them, because we're living in a free society. But what we're seeing is that they are promoting it and promoting it aggressively. And you are not understanding. You are not understanding that the woke mentality, this woke philosophy, is tied into a broader agenda, right? You are not seeing that, right? Because all you think we're living in a different society and we're living in a new age, a whole new world, a new fantastic point of view, right? Right. That's what we're talking about. This whole new world, the new world order. You've got to wake up. It's time for us to understand that we're living in a society that is abnormal, right? The society is no longer a normal society in which you and I have grown up. Now, we understand that, yes, we have to adapt to different times, to different eras and social conditions. What we cannot do is to expunge and to eradicate wholesome values that have worked in society for millennia, and we know to be wholesome values, and supplant them for unwholesome values, right? I'm not suggesting here that we ought to blame Bob Marley. What an amazing person that was. And the fact that he was a genius in his musical prowess, right? However, we also need to understand that Bob Marley was conflicted, right? And he had serious issues that he was dealing with. And, you know, and we cannot just think that, you know, we can just brush these things aside. And, you know, people say, what about the positive that Bob Marley has? the positive impacts that he has made on the world? Well, there might be some, but we have to be careful of taking a medicine that might have also, that might be good to relieve you of the pain that you're feeling when reggae music hits you. Oh, feel no pain, right? But what are the social, not the social, but what are the side effects, right? Of of this medicine, right? What will be the side effects of this medicine? So some things, it might look wholesome, but some things we just have to be careful, because remember again that music is worship. And even I, I was, the same song there, one love, one heart, let's get and feel all right. Because I'm doing this video and I'm just saying, let's get together and feel all right. It is etched in my mind. And sometimes I have to take it out. Lord, take this thing out of my mind. That is how powerful music is, because it is worship. And if you find yourselves, singing a song, you can find yourself singing a song for the entire day, perhaps for weeks, for months. It's in your brain. It takes over the powers of your mind and your brain and your thinking, right? So we want to highlight, we want to commend, we want to laud the brilliant capacities of Bob Marley. We're now entering the date of his birth. Is it on February 6th, right? Coming up. And he's a great man, in his sphere of humanity, right? In the musical realm of our society, he has done himself and the country proud. But I do not think that he should be anybody's national hero, right? Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you in another discussion. Please, before I go, you need to share and to like and to subscribe, right? That's very important that you do that, just don't watch the videos, and also leave a comment. Whether or not, I try to respond to as many, if not all of the comments, right, as they come in, because it's about jolting your ability to think. And I am not, as I've said to one of my viewers, that I am not a normal thinker. I'm not the regular thinker. I'm not on the bandwagon, right? I think outside of the box. And that is what we have not yet learned to do. And before I go also, I'd like you to look at this video that was actually presented to, what's his name, by Dr. Phillip McMillan, right? And he did this video on Sunday or Saturday, I believe. And it's on YouTube. You can find it for yourselves. High price for questioning COVID experts. And this was on Saturday, 27th of January, 2024, right? And it was between, the host was Dr. Phillip McMillan, who is a doctor that is based in England, and his guest was Sam Brokken, right? And I think he's a PhD in, I think it's in epidemiology. I can't remember. But watch this video. I think it has a lot of gems that you need to learn and you need to embrace if it is possible. Now, I would like us to go now to two quotations before I go from Marcus Mosiah Garvey, right? And we know that Bob Marley did hold in high esteem this also national hero, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He says here in his philosophy, right? One of his philosophical assertions. Where can we find in this race of ours real men? Men of character, men of purpose, men of confidence, men of faith. He still recognized that faith was very important in our understanding of the world. Men who really know themselves. I have come across so many weaklings who profess to be leaders, and in the test, I have found them but the slaves of a nobler class. They perform the will of their masters without question, right? And that is what, to a great extent, a lot of our politicians do. And that's coming from Philosophy and Opinions, Volume 1, page 38. The last quotation I would like to leave with you, I'm sorry that I actually bombarding you with these quotations, but they are important, right? I saw them this morning and I thought of sharing them with you. I just forgotten about them and was about to end the video. So few of us can understand what it takes to make a man. The man who will never say die. The man who will never give up. The man who will never depend upon others to do for him what he ought to do for himself. The man who will not blame God, who will not blame nature, who will not blame fate for his condition, but the man who will go out and make conditions to suit himself. Oh, how disgusting life becomes when on every hand you hear people who bear your image, who bear your resemblance, telling you that they cannot make it, that fate is against them, that they cannot get a chance. If over 400 million Negroes can only get to know themselves, to know that in them is a sovereign power, is an authority that is absolute, then in the next 24 hours, we would have a new race. We would have a nation, an empire resurrected, not from the will of others to see us rise, but from our own determination to rise, irrespective of what the world thinks, right? And this is coming from the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Volume 1, pages 38 to 39. Thank you so much for joining. I leave you with those words. Hope you'll have a fantastic day. See you in the next video. Bye.